Welcome to CommercialDrones.fm, the podcast that explores the commercial drone industry, the people who power it, and the concepts that drive it. I'm your host, Ian Smith. Hey everybody, welcome to Commercial Drones FM. Ian here, and today I'm sitting with Mr. Brian Streem, who is the CEO and founder of a company called Aerobo, who are headquartered in Brooklyn, New York City. Welcome to the show, Brian.
It's a pleasure being here. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. The pleasure is all mine and all ours, as everyone who's listening. So just to preface this interview, this is a unique interview that we're having on Commercial Drones FM. This is the first time, almost by design, that we have ever had somebody on the show who's with a company that specializes heavily in aerial multimedia with drones. So typically we focus more on the OEMs, the software companies, the industrial, drone users and end users. But this time I figured it was time to have someone to represent aerial multimedia and talk about more of the business behind movies, TV shows, these kinds of things, and the creative process behind getting that shot with a drone. And of course, that's where I started out with drones. So makes a lot of sense. So really excited to have you here, Brian. Maybe you can just kick it off. Tell us a little bit about yourself and a little bit about where you come from and what you guys are up to.
Yeah. So I've been in New York for about 11 contiguous years. I'm joking that I'm currently bi-coastal curious. I have a small office in Los Angeles, and most of Aerobo's is located in Brooklyn, as you said. We're about 10 person company. And I got into drone. My background is film production. I went to NYU Film School. I produced some movies. I went to Sundance with the film. I got to walk down the red carpet and act like a quasi-celebrity. Was in parties with celebrities where I'm like, whoa, I'm like actually on the fringes of celebrity culture. And then in, I think 2013, I saw a video on YouTube of a drone, and I just thought, damn, that is hot shit, and people are going to want that. And I ended up flying to Sweden multiple times. I flew to Canada. I flew to a couple of countries in Europe that might not even exist anymore. And I essentially bought a really big, expensive drone, brought it back to the States, and then started to fly it around for customers. And then little by little got customers, raised money, got more customers, raised more money. And now we do a fair amount of drone production. We did Fast and the Furious 8. We're doing Spielberg's new movie.
Spielberg's new movie, but Ready Player One or something else?
It's what's it called? It's The Papers with Tom Hanks and that overrated actress Meryl Streep. And
I was gonna say, well, no, keep that to myself. Oh, that's cool, man. Wow. So Fast and the Furious 8. So wait, going back. So what?
Yes.
Do you remember what drone you bought?
Yes, it was a black armor drone by a company called, what are they called? Aragon or something like that. It was very big, very expensive. Worked okay, and I was like, I was too naive at the time, I think, to know that what I was doing with. I was like putting on like very, very big and very, very heavy cameras, like $150,000 cameras that weigh 20 pounds. Because
what are those called?
That was a full-sized Alexa. Which like they shoot like everything with it, and it's like it's probably like 20 inches long, and it probably weighs 20 something pounds. And I was just like flying it around because I don't know, the manufacturer said I should be able to do it, and I didn't know any better. And then it was my naivete that probably like led to like me doing the crazier things that got like me noticed in the beginning. Had I actually known not to do it, I might not be here. It was like doing the kind of daring, stupid things a little bit.
So tell us about Aerobo then. Give us a little bit of history behind the company that you founded and are CEO of.
Sure. So I think that it's when I saw the drone on YouTube, it was actually like a moment of destiny. My entire life I've been fascinated with movies. It's not just, like I was like, I like art and I like technology, but a movie is somehow it's like the most technically sophisticated art form. It's like somehow if you've ever been on a movie set, it's the lights, cameras, there's robots, there's all this cameras, there's all this other stuff. But at the end of the day, you're supposed to like just sit down and like watch actors perform and feel something, which is like really fascinating to me. And I've always been fascinated with moving a camera. That's always been, even when in college, I was building like insane camera rigs made out of wood, made out of PVC pipe. When I was very young, I was building like little contraptions. I was doing claymation and building little contraptions to move my camera in unique ways. So when I saw the drone, I realized that it was suddenly a way to move a camera anywhere I wanted it to. And I don't fly drones. I don't fly the drones. I have professional pilots that do. I have professional camera operators. But I recognized that it was the closest thing that I had to move the camera anywhere in three-dimensional space. And that's what I really care about. I care about moving the camera. If it was an anti-gravity machine or like a magic carpet ride, I prefer it. It's really and I don't, the whole drone industry is not really the drone industry. It's like the look at something industry. Yeah. It's the, how do I get my camera, my sensor, my whatever over there? People like drones are a nuisance. It's an unnecessary byproduct of what people really want to do. And what I really want to do, and what I've always been fascinated with, is just like getting the camera to a certain position. And if anybody who's ever had to create something, whether it be write a play or write a movie or make a sculpture out of clay, make a podcast, like you have like a vision of kind of what you want it to be in your brain, and then when you try to do it, you're like, damn, that's like not what I wanted it to be. It's that like that mind's eye versus that like execution part that is like so hard for like the artist. And the drone, it was like, oh, I could literally move the camera where my mind envisions it to go. So when I saw the drone in 2013, I'm like, oh, I can move the camera anywhere. It's still not perfect, but it's the best thing we have. So I, like I said, I bought the drone. We were one of the first legal drone operators to, and I also, I recognized I was in like an odd space at the beginning. Nate from Prenav, who introduced us, I met Nate at a show in San Francisco, probably at like a drone convention. It was my first drone convention, probably in 2014. And I realized that everybody in like the whole place had, they either came from an FAA background, an aviation background, or like a cell phone tower background. I'm just like, and I realized that in order to fly these things, I needed FAA permission. But I was like, I don't know anything about the FAA. I was stunned to learn I had to like file paperwork with, like, I just want to like move the camera like where I want it. Like, what the hell is this? So I had to hire aviation attorneys, aviation consultants, do all this paperwork I knew nothing about, deal with all this, quite frankly, all this crap. And then we became one of the first, probably like the first like 9 or 10 companies in the U.S. with like the 333, which that was like a big.
Oh, you guys had a 333.
Oh
Nice.
Yeah, we had a 333. We were like probably the first guys on like the East Coast. I think everybody like initially headed on the West Coast. So, and then when I got that, I raised some money from friends and family. Didn't really know what I was doing. And just kind of started to pick up the phone and get customers. And we've been growing pretty steadily, pretty quickly.
How many employees are you guys?
10 employees.
Nice.
Yeah, and I'm about to hire. I have some tech projects that are going to require me to hire additional people shortly.
And so I want to touch on and go deeper in a lot of the kind of stuff you've said initially. Going back, just kind of looking at the movies then. So you've worked on some movies. Can you describe to us, what is it like to be a drone film crew on a movie? Sure. Like, what's the deal? Like, how does it happen? What is it like when you're there? How many takes do you get? Like these kinds of things.
So I think it's important to know that, like this is professionalism is a thing. This is not like a thing where somebody just shows up with a drone and like executes it. It's there's a Directors Guild of America. So anybody who works in movies, who's like a director or an assistant director, they're in the DGA. The DGA, in order to get into it, like quite literally, they need to take like a test. And like the test is something like the CIA gives. It's like there are 3 people on a life raft. The life raft is sinking 10. So it's like, like people on movie sets are put
like a logic test.
It's like a logic test. It's like a solve the Rubik's Cube with a blindfold on. I mean, it's like, so, you're put into situations on movie sets where, well, if the scene takes place at night in Antarctica, you're probably in Antarctica at night. And you're probably faced with like terrible, no bathroom, no this, being freezing cold. So the kinds of situations that crews on movie sets find themselves in are incredibly rigorous. They're out there, physically hard, mentally challenging. You have to be smart. You have to be sophisticated. You have to be just like nice. You have to be play well with others.
Because it's a lot of like different companies and contractors, right? That
Exactly.
kind of get together.
Exactly. So, when you're going on something like a Spielberg movie or something like that, like that's like everybody is top of their class, and there's no room for error. And there's technical complexities. There's like, I have, if not even one cable is missing, if one pin on one cable is bent and you don't have a backup.
What cable?
Yeah, it could be. I mean, it could be anything. It could,
okay.
It could be. I mean, it's not nothing specific, but like, it happens. The drone won't fly, the camera won't turn on, the boom mic. And
then you got Spielberg sitting in the director's chair with his arms crossed, wondering what's going on.
And ostensibly, these are like $1 million days. Like they're spending $1 million in a day. So there's when you're working at like that level on productions like this, it's a thing of, and there's also something to get the shot. At the end of the day, like there's no room for excuse. There's like get the shot. Like,
so how does that work? Like, how do you know what shot? Do you know a week in advance, or is it like you show up that day and then Spielberg himself or whoever the director is or the cinematographer, yeah, and they're telling you like, okay, this is what we want you to do.
Sometimes it's and it's hard because like I was saying before about like creative people, they have like a vision in their brain, and it's somehow that vision needs to be like plucked from their cortex and thrown onto a pilot and thrown onto a camera operator. And there are other people in the way, and they're also like the seal, like there's a power line in the way, and it's bad weather, and it's about to rain, and the actor's missing their mark, and the car won't. So it's oftentimes there are conversations that take place beforehand where everybody gets on like a pre-production phone call and they discuss, well, we want to do this, we want to do this. Oftentimes there's a location scout where quite literally the people who will be on the project will go and look at it.
So you guys would, if you're the team, if you already kind of get the contract, as it were, then you'll be involved in that process as well.
Correct. And, a lot of customers, it's still like their first time using it, so they kind of want to know what's possible, what's not possible. And somehow at the end of it, it's supposed to be, at the end of all this nonsense, it's supposed to resonate emotionally with an audience. Yeah.
That's a lot of pressure, actually.
It's madness. The fact, like, I've produced probably like 5 feature films or so. The fact that like any movie ever gets made and is good is like mind-boggling to me. Like I cannot understand. Like it's been like, there are some famous directors who said movies are 90% transportation. Like you don't realize that like the amount of just equipment on a movie set, the amount of like just big trucks, like it's heavy.
Do you produce your own films currently still?
So I've done some kind of creative projects at Aerobo just because it's like led to like other things that we do, like marketing. Like I have like advertising companies want to do like marketing activations and things like that. So I did a short film with a director friend of mine named Paul Trillo that we just did a big Ford project with. But we did a short film that was like 10 minutes long, and it had like 10 or 11 actors, and it was all dialogue. and it was one continuous drone shot. So
wait, was that you in the neighborhood
cul-de-sac?
or something?
Yeah.
The cul-de-sac.
Yeah.
Oh,
at
that's
at the end of the cul-de-sac. So Paul, the first time
tell us about that.
Sure.
That was crazy. I think I saw. Maybe it was before. Maybe it was whenever we were introduced. I was checking something out, or I saw it on social media.
Yeah, it was
crazy.
like a Vimeo staff. It was like a Vimeo staff pick, and some of the things like go quasi viral in certain circles. But my very good friend Paul Trillo is a very talented director, and the first time I ever met him in 2013, I said, "Yeah, Paul, I think I'm gonna go buy a drone." He's like, "Oh, drones are cool. I want to buy a drone." And like, so we hit it off right away. And he's interested in like similar thing, which is not the drone, which is like moving the camera. I think a year, maybe it was 2 years or so ago, we kind of developed this idea that it's like, it's a not drone idea. It's not like, oh, let's shoot scenery, let's shoot landscape. It's like, no, let's like do like a weird intimate story that like, like if you watch The Shining, like it was the first time a Steadicam was used, which gives like that weird like ethereal ghosty feel that you're just like always pursuing the character. Yeah, you're floating and pursuing the character. So we wanted like a similar thing. So we kind of developed a script that would work with the technique. And then we shot this project. It was very hard. It was, I think maybe there was, I can't remember. It was about 10 actors, and the film was about 10 minutes long, and it's one long drone shot. And everybody has dialogue, so everybody's mic'd. And when you're watching the film, you like you kind of forget that it's on that's a drone. Like it goes from high up, it goes to medium shots and close-ups of the actors.
That's what I love about it, is because you guys don't just fly the drone, at like 50 feet or even 25 feet up.
It gets like right there in people's face.
So the drone was just literally buzzing right in front of some people's faces, and they were just having dialogue, like just talking normally. Ignore the drone.
These are professional actors. they're, I think, when you're making something, when you're making a company, when you're making a movie, you need to like convince everybody that like, yeah, this is really cool. People are going to like this. And like, you should put your face nearish to the drone for art. And people.
What kind of drone was it?
I think we used,
was it Inspire?
I think we used an Inspire 1. I think it was a Inspire 1 X5R. Yeah. Gotcha. We wanted to use like a heavier lift thing, like a Alexa Mini or a Red, but it was just like too big, too loud, too noisy, too scary.
Yeah, too risky.
To everything. Yeah. So we have, so once in a while I have like, there's another project right now that I'm trying to do. Every once in a while, like, me and usually Paul we'll have like an idea that we just kind of like want to execute and like run like a little experiment and see if we could do it. We also did a project called Chromaticity, which we like attached smoke grenades to these drones and we flew them over the ocean. And then, and they were like colorful smoke grenades. So like you just see, and we ended up removing the drone. So you just like see like these like beautiful, like, like streaks of color across the Atlantic Ocean. That was pretty cool.
We'll have to. I'll link the cul-de-sac and that
that'd be cool.
On the podcast post. So. And now, a quick word from our sponsors. Genius New York is the world's largest business accelerator competition for unmanned systems. In addition to $3 million in startup funding, the program offers company stipends, housing, resources, programming, and networking opportunities. Genius New York is currently accepting early-stage technology companies who are focused on hardware, software, and data analytics related to unmanned systems. Applications are open until October 1st, so go apply now at geniusny.com. That's geniusny.com. Commercial Drones FM is supported by Deveron UAS. Deveron UAS is building a standardized drone network for farmers all across North America, offering on-demand, near-real-time field-level data when you want it. To learn more about how you can achieve scalable data collection in agriculture, visit deveronuas.com. That's deveronuas.com. Okay, back to the show. Speaking of then like the hardware, and so you guys, just to kind of take a little bit of like a 20-degree turn to the left, you guys don't just strictly do aerial multimedia. You're also involved in some more of like the quote unquote industrial stuff. So whenever you're switching to an industrial maybe use case, maybe someone wants like some photogrammetry mission or something, and you're doing some mapping or whatnot. Like, do you guys switch hardware? I mean, obviously yes. Like, you're not going to use like the Alexa or like the Red camera for that, right?
Yeah, no. I mean, if it's like a 3D map, I mean, like most, a lot of the hardware has become, I can't tell a difference between anything anymore. So an Inspire 2, most of it will get the job done. Obviously, like I'm interested for a lot of reasons in, was it like the M200, like the RTK system?
That's right. That one is targeted at filmmakers with the RTK so that you can get within centimeters of where you want your shot.
So I don't think it's targeted toward...
Not the M200, sorry.
It's
the
M600.
Yeah,
M600.
One, 600.
Yeah. Yes, I believe it is. And we use that system. That's a good system. Yeah, I mean, it kind of just depends on what like I have a customer right now that wants to do a very sophisticated 3D model, and it's more for like real estate. So it's not just like photogrammetry for the sake of like weights and measurements. It's more of like there's like a sophisticated post processing. They want to do like a fun multimedia 3D interactive thing. So it's a unique project. We'll talk more about it next time.
Yeah. So, okay, here's the question for you then. When comparing, how do I want to phrase this? Where do you make more money right now? Aerial multimedia. Well, you are obviously very specialized in that. You've, been in the business. That's your specialty. But like just comparing like apples to apples comparison for an hour or for a day of you/your crew and company's time, what kind of jobs are paying the most right now? I mean, obviously Spielberg movie might be up there, but like comparing to like a multimedia type shoot compared to
the multimedia thing for sure.
Like how much? I mean,
we're making
not specific. You don't have to share specific numbers, but just like
I'll give a range. We're making anywhere from like $6,000 up to $15,000 a day for doing that kind of stuff. But it's typically 2 to 3 people, and it's a friend who's wiser than me said a very interesting thing. It's these kind of customers, they value the work differently than like in like people more like industrial sectors, and they value it differently. And the other thing is if you try to do like a cell phone tower inspection, the thing with that is you somehow need to convince somebody that over 10 years, over 5 years, they're going to save 10 pennies per every 5 cents on every nickel and dime. You need to like figure out ROI, and it's going to save this, and it's going to save. You need to like do like a lot of selling and a lot of math and a lot of this. With like the media space, they kind of just want it. It's like they just kind of want it because somebody had an idea that they needed it. And that is like, I think that's why we've like found like a lot of success in doing it. Like somebody just wants it, and they know that it requires like talent and technical proficiency to execute it.
That's a really good comparison. I like that. Very cool. Okay. So then on to one of the other questions that I'm really curious about is, I've seen... And we're not talking like Red cameras and Alexa cameras yet. I have no idea. This is not a section of the drone industry or a segment that I really keep up with as far as the capabilities. But I've seen, obviously like DJI Mavic Pro has, right, and even the little Spark has like little computer vision follow me features. Mm-hmm. So how is it looking from a professional filmmaker's perspective? Mm-hmm. Of using computer vision to get the shot, like computer assisted shot getting.
It's a joke, and it'll never work
for the level of things that you're trying. It'll
never work. There is it's that old thing about, robots. The robots can do the things that the humans can't do very easily. Multiply very large numbers, tell you who the president of Chile was in 1912. Humans can't do that stuff. But what humans cannot do is do the stuff that humans do very easily: cry, laugh, get a joke, understand like the nuance of a pause between a couple breaking. Computers cannot do that. And will they be able to at some point? Yeah, maybe, but it would nowhere close to being there. And the fact is that I was just I was having this discussion. I was doing a project with this gentleman named Dan. Dan shot a little film called Star Wars. I always get it confused. It was Rogue One or the Force Awakens. It was the Force Awakens, like the first of the new ones, the Force Awakens. Dan Mindell, I believe is his last name. And yeah, he's, don't take my word for it, take his. It's at the end of the day, like if you're trying to capture action or you're trying to capture human movement, there is something when there's like a human operator that like it's acting is reacting, and moving a camera is reacting off of the visual that you're seeing, and there's an artistry behind it, and it's subtle. And you also have to remember, like an audience they're watching this on a movie screen that's 1,000 feet big in front of them, so they detect those subtle nuances. Like that's also like a difference between like doing the media stuff versus doing a real estate inspection. The shot when you're doing a real estate thing, or excuse me, when you're doing like an insurance thing, the first 10 seconds of the thing could look like crap, and all you need is one good frame of 1 out of 30 frames need to look okay to tell you whatever the hell you're looking for. With this, it contiguously, frame by frame by frame by frame by frame by frame by frame, they all need to have poetry to them.
How many like takes do you guys get? I wanted to specifically say, I'm sure it all depends, like lighting and environmental considerations and budget.
It always depends. Sometimes it's really hard. It takes 10 tries. Sometimes they nail on the first. Sometimes they don't. It depends on a lot of factors. It depends on what the director wants to do, how many times he or she wants to do it, how many times the DP. It could vary. It depends if they're pressed for time. It depends if they're going into overtime. It depends on a lot of stuff. I would like to go back for a second about like the whole computer thing. I do think that there are more, let's just say, intuitive ways to execute a shot that I think you still kind of need a human, but I don't like. But I think there's a more intuitive way to execute the shot with computer assistance, follow me things. Like I'm just like not impressed by that stuff. When do you like to make what is artistic? It's human. It's somebody had like a vision and it should look like this for a reason. A computer doesn't have that.
There's an interesting line between it. So if I asked you guys at Aerobo, I need this drone shot to be depressing.
Yeah.
Like gave it like an emotion. Could you make a depressing drone shot or something? You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to like tie it to more of like because a human understands like depressing or sad drone shot.
A lot of it is the mise en scene. It's the what is going on in the frame. If I had like a drone shot moving slowly, creeping away. There is a cinema language. Like when like the camera like is moving away from a person slowly. You play that in your head. That typically means the person's like isolated or alone, or when the camera is moving in on somebody, it means that the person is like having some sort of revelation. Like there is a language to cinema. And like it's based on human psychology, like what we understand. So yeah, there are things to do that do work, and yeah, the onus is often on like the people in the field, on our team, to sometimes make suggestions to even Steven Spielberg's DP on like what they think will work, because they have unique experience in flying cameras. Yeah.
So what would be your favorite film of all time? That includes a drone shot in
Oh
it?
man,
That's a tough question.
that includes a drone shot. In
Actually, you know what? If you can't think of it now, here's something to answer as well.
I got a good answer. I got a good answer. Well, there's a caveat. So I know it's like a cliche, but the best film of all time is obviously The Shawshank Redemption. It's like no doubt about it. And I watched the end of the last shot of that film is, you know, I hate to be, it came out in 1994. If you haven't seen it already, too bad. But last shot is those two characters embrace. Have you seen it?
Yeah, I've seen it.
Those two characters embracing on a beach. And it's beautiful, and it's a helicopter shot of like just like moving. You don't like, you're uncertain about their journey together, but you know they're together. It's beautiful. And I always think, damn it, we could have done that drone shot.
That was one of my questions: was when do you use a helicopter versus a drone? Like today, like if you're looking today, I'm looking at like so. Okay, Planet Earth, for example, like insane cinematography, the patience, the dedication that these people that go out in the wilderness display, and the technology they're using is insane. If you haven't seen Planet Earth 2, it is absolutely mind-blowing. They use drones, they use automated laser-tripped cameras and little crazy, it's really powered by dedication of the humans that are making
it's unbelievable,
But like, so today, like if you're talking about film or TV or whatever, like, when is there like a rule of thumb? Well, we really need this helicopter because the drone just isn't going to cut it.
Yes. There's a legal thing. Helicopters still have like more authority to go in places where drones can't. There's like sometimes if you want to do like a shot that like has to go, span like miles, like you need a helicopter to do that.
Like carrying like a huge, massive, like super gimbaled, insane camera.
Like
maybe?
if you need to shoot it on some sort of very, very heavy, sophisticated camera system, you kind of need to use a helicopter.
Like IMAX, right? Doesn't that require specific types of?
Yeah, like an IMAX camera or something like that. One of the unique pieces of technology that we actually have a patent on is so there's the drone part, and that's the part that flies, and then there's like the gimbal part, and that's the part that stabilizes the camera. So these really high end productions want to shoot with very big and heavy cameras, and they're not just big and heavy, they're like long, because like, oftentimes like the lens, like the camera costs like $60,000, but the lens costs $100,000. It's like made in Germany and yada yada yada, and it's like very long and beefy and heavy, so it creates like quite a challenge to stabilize that sort of thing, because every time you add more weight to the gimbal motors need to increase, the actual thing holding the motor needs to increase. Everything just needs to exponentially. Then the copter needs, so it like exponentially just cascades out of control. So we actually have invented like a very unique a gimbal system that's kind of like it kind of works based on a magic trick. And
love the marketing.
Yeah, it's like really cool.
Are you guys going to be selling this, or is this just for you guys to use to kind of give you that edge?
Yeah, right now the latter, but we will see. We're kind of in like a beta sort of a phase right now.
Awesome. Cool, man. Well, so the last question that I have for you is, what's either your favorite drone of all time, or like your favorite drone shot of all time that you've worked on? I think it's less interesting for favorite drone. Maybe favorite drone shot, like specifically.
Favorite drone shot. That's a really good question. There is I think like the technical feat of what we did with like at the end of the cul-de-sac, like that's like really, really, like I haven't seen anybody like duplicate or even come close to doing something of that, because that's like really like the truest like creation of what I visualized my whole life, I just want to move a camera like all around people, and I just, let's move it over there. And there's like, there's a lot of there's obviously like three people doing like 360 video. I don't know if I should get into this, but we'll go for a second. It's like 360 videos and VR video and stuff like that. But that to me is antithetical to what a drone is, because when you're watching a movie, you have a director, and the director is specific. What are they doing? They're specifically telling you to look at something. They're like, look over there, and I'll look over there, and I'm going to edit and look over there. So it's very directed, and it's very look in that direction. Like a 360 video is like the opposite of that. It's like look everywhere. So at the end of the cul-de-sac, I was like the purist, like, yeah, we just want to move people to look at these certain things, and we wanted to do it fluidly. So that is probably one of them. There was also some shots in like Fast and Furious 8 where there's just like cars jumping off the buildings.
Cool. I need to see that.
And stuff like that, yeah. And that was cool because it was most of it was, 95% of it was like in downtown Cleveland. So it's like you're like flying, like you're like, oh wow, I'm like flying in a city, It feels expensive.
Yeah, that's cool, man. Awesome. Well, Brian Streem, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast.
My pleasure.
You guys, if you're listening, you can check out the Aerobo website at arrowbow.com. That's AEROBO.com. And you can follow them on Twitter at arrowbowdrones on Twitter. And while you're at it, go ahead and follow the podcast on Twitter at Drones Podcast and Facebook.com/Drones Podcast. If you want, you can support the podcast with $1 a month, get access to the private Facebook group. After this episode airs, Brian's going to get an invite to the Facebook group. So if he has Facebook and he wants to join the group, he'll be there because all the guests from previous shows are also invited. So Brian, once again, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate you bringing your perspective on aerial media over to the podcast.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks a lot.
All right, everybody, we're going to cut off the mics. Take care and fly safe. Cheers.